And by the way, New York Governor Kathy Hochul says she wants to give New York City an additional $2.4 billion to help manage the massive influx of migrants that they've seen in that city. $1.9 billion would be included in the governor's 2025 budget proposal, with an additional $500 million coming from the state's rainy day fund. New York City believes the cost of providing food, housing, medical care, you name it, for all of these migrants could reach $10 to $12 billion by next year. For more on this, we're joined by Terrell County, Texas Sheriff Thad Cleveland. Sheriff Cleveland previously served as a Border Patrol agent for more than 25 years. Sir, it's always good to have you on the show. I wanted to start with, what the New York governor is asking for here. Nearly $2.5 billion in migrant aid in her state's latest budget proposal. That's, you do the math. It's roughly 1% of the entire state budget. What should that tell all of us about how much needs to be spent in actual border states like yours to try to bring the migrant crisis under control?
Yes, ma'am. And you look at the figures that the governor put forth there in New York, and then you compare that to what Texas has spent. We've already spent multiple billions of dollars. We had another legislative session where several more $1 billion were approved for border security funding, specifically even $1 billion for Texas to build the fence here. And I'll tell you what, Secretary Markie continues to say it's a inherited problem that he inherited, and it's a world migration event, but that's furthest from the truth. If you look back at the presidential debates in 2019, now President Biden specifically mentioned that he would welcome asylum seekers, and he even mentioned that he, under President Obama, had built 700 miles of fence.
Yeah. I wanted to also take your, speaking of President Biden and the White House, what's your take on today's meeting? The president has obviously invited a handful of congressional leaders on both sides of the aisle to finally come to the White House to talk about this supplemental aid package. Border funding is part of the deal. Do you have any confidence anything will actually come of this meeting?
And again, hope's not a strategy, but I do always have faith in our leadership. We haven't seen much tangible come out of these meetings previously. And what we don't need is more money thrown at the border. Yes, we can enhance security as far as with technology and fencing, but what the president continues to say is that, in his administration, that they've offered to put more money at the border. What we need is a policy. Right now, there is absolutely no policy along our border. It's a free-for-all. Migrants know that if you come to our border, you're going to be let into the United States freely.
Yeah, and many of those migrants have told our border correspondents, including myself at one point, that they have come at this time because they figured it'd be more, welcomed by open arms by this particular administration. Just back to mentioning quick the New York budget proposal. That is all coming at the same time that you have these worsening tensions between the Biden administration and the state of Texas over how to handle border security. And as you know, the Justice Department has asked the Supreme Court to now get involved and force Texas to grant federal agents access to Eagle Pass, which has been seen as the epicenter of this crisis. This after the 2 children were found dead last weekend. Sir, do you think Texas is overstepping by keeping Border Patrol agents off of that land? Is that the answer?
No, ma'am. And first, I want to answer that by saying, we don't need to pit Border Patrol agents against Texas personnel, whether it's DPS personnel, Texas Parks and Wildlife, or Texas Military Forces. All of those people are out there to help the border. They both work for 2 different administrations, if you will, one a presidential administration, one the governor of Texas. But what I want to say also is that, historically, Texas has been involved in the border and helping Border Patrol secure the border. I actually spent 6 months at the state of Texas. I was Border Patrol's representative back in 2008 when Governor Rick Perry had Operation Border Star going on. Now with Operation Lone Star under Governor Abbott, he's doing much more because it's a catastrophe at our border. He's protecting Texans. He's also protecting the United States. What he has done is much needed and very welcome by myself and my county. And I can speak on behalf of Border Patrol agents for what the state's doing to help them out.
And, speaking about Border Patrol agents, what he has done from this specific sector, has barred federal agents, which is Border Patrol agents, from coming there. And just from my time at the border, you talk to these Border Patrol agents and they will tell you, most of them off camera, under anonymity, that the Biden administration has failed Border Patrol. They have failed this country. So it doesn't seem like 2 different teams here when you're talking about the state officials who would be patrolling and the Border Patrol officials who would all be sharing that same space, right?
You're 100% right.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.